Hey, how's it going, everybody? Today we're going to react to top 10 things Americans want you to know. In case you didn't know, I was born and raised in Germany, went to school there and everything, but I'm now living here in the US, and I think I've gotten used to the everyday life a little bit more than I have when I first moved over here. So let's find out what the top 10 things are that people, Americans specifically, want the world to know. Um, yeah, also, I finally got my hands on an actual headset. I hope the audio is fine. Let me know what you think. And let's get right into it.
That's the thing. It's a bagel, and then for lunch you can get sushi, and then for dinner you can go get Chinese food. You can't do that anywhere else in the world.
Welcome to Watch Mojo, and today we're counting down our picks for the top 10 things Americans want you to know.
People from California kind of have they say
For this list, we'll be looking at the facts
True.
about the United States of America that its residents wish more people abroad knew about. We're also looking at the misconceptions about the nation that
Hey, that's not just something that people from California say, by the way. I lived there, and yes, people say that a lot, but I've been to other states, and even here in Alabama now, people say that. Not everyone, and maybe not as often as people do in California, but people say that here too.
they want to clear up. If there's an American fact that you wish we'd stated loud and proud, plant your flag in the comments with your picks. Number 10. Americans like to make friends.
Welcome to America, son. Your long, arduous journey is over.
There's a stereotype of the ugly
Interesting.
American out there, that they're rude, arrogant, or brash, and there are certainly Americans like that, but that still leaves room for the tons of friendly people around the country. Those who visit one of the numerous small towns are likely to find locals who will smile and try to strike up conversation. Americans do like to meet new people, if they have the time.
I have a splendid establishment here, my friend. I'm sure you'll flourish at this location for many, many years.
You're very kind, man. Very kind. Thank you.
In the bigger cities where Americans are constantly on the move, the residents may seem highly focused on their own thing. However, they're still willing to take a moment to help tourists before moving on. Making friends with Americans is easy when the time and place is right.
They're not perfect, but the Lord says, love thy neighbor.
Shut up, Flanders!
Oakley dokley doo.
Oh boy.
Number 9.
Did you guys
Not
watch
everyone in the
Simpsons growing up? I sure did, but I watched it in German, so honestly, like the English dub, or I guess which is the original dub, sounds kind of strange to me almost. I very much I very much prefer the German one. Um, is it true that Americans like to make friends? I don't know if they necessarily like to make friends. That's something that Germans aren't known for either. Germans aren't really out to make friends necessarily, or it's very hard to crack that shell, to get to the friendship level, let's say. Um, but it's true, and if they have the time, that's a big thing, right? I mean, I think a lot of people take others for being disrespectful. They think people are disrespectful just because they don't want to have a very long conversation with them. And honestly, if you're in a rush, if you don't have the time, it's no hard feelings, but it's you know it has to be the right moment. You don't just make friends every day. That's not a thing. That's not a thing. It takes, you know, there's a lot of factors that play a role in this. But they're very approachable. Americans are far more approachable than many other nation or people from other nations, especially in Germany. I mean, if you have a question for a German. For a German, like on the street, maybe if you're an American visiting Germany and you need directions, like they'll help you. I think the younger the people, the better in that regard, because their English is most likely better. But older generations, it's how it is in every other country. It's hit or miss, hit or miss. Sometimes they're nice, sometimes they're just flat out rude.
South is a cowboy. Country music videos, as well as TV and movies, probably have most of the world believing that the southern United States are replete with cowboys. But that's not the case.
Yeah, they're
Who's
not.
Michael? I'm Caleb Crawdad. I do declare.
You don't have to keep saying I do declare. Anytime you say something, it means you're declaring.
That is the way Southern people talk.
Although cowboy
Yeah,
culture certainly
no, that's not, dude. I hear Southern people talk every single day here in Alabama, and that's not how they talk. Also, if anyone that's watching this is from the South, do you guys think it's strange that, I don't know how it was 50 years ago, but maybe nowadays, that there's no, it really depends on the family and how they talk, whether or not you adapt a Southern accent. Because I know plenty of people my age that they don't they don't have an accent to me at all, or barely. I've even heard people say that they purposely try to not have the southern accent because they think, and this is what I was told, because they think that when they visited other places that people thought they sounded dumb. And to me, that's hilarious. But southern accents, they can be pretty cool. They can be pretty cool, and they're definitely very different than any other accents in the U.S.
Certainly has a large presence in the South. It's far from universal. Most Southerners dress and act like the average American. Unless you meet someone who actually works on a ranch or farm, they probably won't be dressed like cowboys. The cowboy lifestyle is also not limited to the South. They're found everywhere from the Pacific Northwest to central states and beyond. Contrary to popular belief, no part of America has a monopoly on cowboys.
Instant grits?
No self-respecting Southerner uses instant grits.
Number 8. Not everyone owns guns. It's undoubtedly true that America has been reported as having the highest amount of guns per capita than every other nation for years now. And over the years, there have been numerous issues with firearm violence. But when it comes down to numbers, less Americans have access to guns than it might seem. Researchers estimate that around 30 to 32% of U.S. citizens personally own firearms.
Part of it was self-protection. There were a lot of not in the local area, but just surrounding areas. There were a lot of home break-ins and things like that.
While that is still a high number, it's still a far cry away from everyone having them. The majority of the nation has largely leaned away from keeping guns in their household.
The TV said you're 58% more likely to shoot a family member than an intruder.
TV said that?
Number 7. Not everyone is super patriotic. Everyone in the States knows.
It's true. Not everyone does own them. Not everyone does own them. I know that for sure. People, I mean, you'll meet 10 people that don't have any, and then you meet one person that has like 17 of them, or 5, or 2, or 1. Not everyone. Everyone always thinks that when you own one, that you own so many of them. But I think what people don't understand is they're quite expensive. Like if you want to have a decent piece, you're paying. I mean, there's no universal cost. There's no there's no average cost. I mean, it very much depends if you had a handgun or a rifle or something like that. But you can get it. I mean, and then it also depends: are they new? Are they used? They can vary so much. I mean, sky is the limit when it comes to the cost. They're not cheap. They don't cost $20.
Knows someone who owns a pair of American flag pants or totes the country as the greatest in the world. But for every hardcore patriot, there are dozens of those who are a little less enthusiastic. Plenty of Americans aren't afraid to express their displeasure with the country or its policies.
We, the people of the United States, say we don't need any war with Russia. We don't need any war with China.
And while some people love to hoist multiple flags or wear them all the time, there are others who prefer to only show off their US-themed items on the big holidays. Overall, while a good chunk of Americans like a lot of things about the nation, they don't always feel the need to make that obvious to everyone they meet. Number 6, there's more to American cuisine than fast food.
Yeah, that's true. That's true. I mean, not everyone's here is patriotic, but but overall, the U.S. is a billion times more patriotic than many other countries in the entire world. I mean, take Germany. Maybe Germany's a special case here, but you won't see any German flags around Germany ever, unless it's the World Cup. Specifically the World Cup, not the European Cup, but the World Soccer Cup. Or maybe if you're like at the, a government building, but besides that, no one's flying a flag or anything, which I think is unfortunate, but here in the US, like, yeah, some people are not patriotic, some way more. I mean, it's the you'll find both sides, both extremes.
From the outside looking in, it's easy to assume that America is absolutely obsessed with fast food.
I want some American food, damn it, I want French fries.
Not only are there tons of chain restaurants, but international sensations like Dunkin' Donuts, KFC, McDonald's, and more were born in the USA. But that's just one of many options for the average American.
It's just a subway stop away from eating Russian food or Ethiopian food or stuff like that. And
since U.S. citizens have roots in so many different cultures, various cultural meals...
He must be from New York. There's no way he's not.
...are often incorporated together to create new fusion cuisine. And every region has its own specialties and flavors. The South has tons of barbecue, Cajun, and soul food. New Englanders love their clam chowder. So while travelers can certainly enjoy as much fast food as they can handle, there's plenty of exciting and delicious options in every corner of the U.S. Number 5, not all Americans are overweight.
I still haven't tried the deep dish pizza. I still gotta do that. is anyone here in that's in the that's from like the Chicago area, right? Um, does anyone here have that? Is it worth trying? And if yes, what kind should you get? Do they even have different kinds? Because it always looks the same.
Options in every corner of the US. Number 5. Not all Americans are overweight.
Gime? What's a gime?
According to recent statistics, over 40% of Americans are overweight because their BMI is higher than what medical professionals have deemed to be average for their height. That number is also projected to go up by 2030. However, there's still no sign that the majority of US citizens will be considered overweight anytime soon.
I worked out with a dumbbell yesterday. I feel vigorous.
States like Hawaii, Colorado, and more have obesity rates that fall lower than average for both the US and other countries. A lot of complex environmental and individual health factors contribute to the reason why the numbers range over 40%. However, bodies still come in a variety of shapes and sizes in America overall. Number 4, America is huge. Even people who live in the United States can forget how big the nation actually is.
Oh, massive,
America
dude.
is generally considered the 3rd biggest country by area and population
Massive.
in the world.
Guys, in case you didn't know. This is not 100% the case, but it's very close. So if you ever been to Germany, right? When I was growing up there, I mean, Germans they're not very spontaneous anyway, but going on a field trip or a road trip in Germany is like unheard of. I mean, that's something that you do like once a year, and then it has to be planned 16 weeks in advance, you know? But if you were told, if you were living in one of the southern states and you say, hey, I'm driving all the way to the north, people would be like, oh my God, that's a long drive. That must be like an 8-hour drive, right? You know, an 8-10 hour drive. Well, 8-10 hour drive. I don't know. Like if you're in Texas, I think you can probably drive for close to 8 hours and still not be out of the state. If you go from all the way from the most southern point to the most northern point. The U.S. is huge. Germany is half the size of Texas, roughly. Half the size of Texas. It's crazy. It's ginormous, dude. I drove across the U.S. I drove from California, Northern California, to West Virginia, which is not directly on the coast, but you know it's very close. I mean, I've been to D.C. now, but that took me 5 days of. Well, every day I drove about 9 to 10 hours.
That makes seeing the country's sights into a
So that means that alone, I could have probably driven from the most northern point to the most southern point of Germany, back, one way, then back again, then back again, and then back again. So 5 times.
Daunting task. If anyone wanted to do a big cross-country drive, it would take about 6 days of 8-hour drives to realistically complete the journey.
Roughly.
And that's if you barely stop to see anything.
Come on, honey, look at the mountains. Breathe the air.
Along the way, it would also be clear that weather patterns in the United States hugely vary depending on where you go.
Oh yeah.
Fortunately for anyone planning to visit the states who's short on time, they can make a full trip out of one state or city alone. Number 3, every state is different.
Totally.
From the outside looking in, the United States
guys.
looks pretty, well, united. To other countries, it can look like a homogenous mass of America and Americans. But every state has its own culture and distinct identity.
I'm walking here. I'm walking
the terrain,
over here.
Climate and culture can greatly shift as soon as you cross into
I like how a
another
cigarette falls out of his mouth. Check this out again.
culture and distinct identity.
He's taking a hit and then. Hey!
I'm walking here. I'm walking here.
The terrain,
the tapping on the taxi is hilarious.
climate and culture can greatly shift as soon as you cross into another state. There's also tons of regional accents and specific slang that can help strangers narrow down where someone's from.
It's like, hey y'all, how we doing tonight?
And every city definitely doesn't look like the Big Apple. No 2 places in the country are quite exactly the same state. Number 2, state. Number 2, why they don't travel abroad often. While around 71% of Americans have gotten out of the country, it's harder for the majority to make that a regular habit. The principal reason why lies with the costs.
Here we are, Branson, Missouri.
No, Pelly, this is Bronson, Missouri.
Passports, flights, and vacation expenses can be daunting to handle all at once. Even trips to neighboring countries.
What? Come on, guys. Yeah, the passport thing. Come on. Passports cost something in every country. Oh, that looks really nice. Well, plus, many people say, oh, you have to leave the country, you have to see other countries. Dude, you know how big the US is? You can live your entire life without having left the US and see so much beauty. I mean, you could see that in other countries too, but you know, you don't have to leave the land. Let's put it this way. Plus, it's expensive. I mean, every time you want to go there, you got to fly across the pond. Every time you want to go to Japan, fly. You want to go to Hawaii, even, I mean, which is still part of the U.S., fly. You got to go. You want to go to Germany, fly. You know, the only places that you can reach by car, realistically speaking, and then it even depends on where you're living, is Canada and like Canada. Well, and then there's Mexico, you know, but that's about it. And those are big countries too. Mexico is big, and so is Canada. Canada's enormous, and there's nothing past Canada.
Like Canada or Mexico can be princely affairs depending on the itinerary.
Oh,
despite
that's hilarious. You just mentioned them.
America's reputation for being one of the richest countries in the world, the reality is very different. While the USA happens to have a ton of rich people, that wealth isn't evenly distributed across the wide population. For many citizens, the decision whether or not to embark on an international trip is largely a question of cost instead of interest. Before we continue, be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. You have the option to be notified for occasional videos or all. Number 1, they aren't all the same. America is a country of immigrants. This has led to plenty of diversity among its residents.
When I was a boy, heaven was here. And America was here.
While white Americans make up most of the racial majority, there are still cities and U.S. territories where other ethnic groups make up a good deal of the population. This diversity has led to a wide blend of traditions from across the world becoming parts of the wider U.S. culture.
We won this country's freedom together. We built our greatest cities together. We defended our way of life together. We've continued to perfect our union together.
Additionally, although English is the first language to over 70% of Americans, it's not technically the official federal language. There's plenty of multilingual speakers and those picking up the language. The United States is quite the tapestry of humanity. As you travel through the nation, you'll find many kinds of people with rich and unique stories.
Oh yeah, you never know what to expect, dude. You never know what to expect. Going to the grocery store, going to get a haircut, you know, you never know who's going to end up dealing with you, you know, or talking to you. You have no idea. I like this video, honestly. I don't think I agree with every single one here, but most of them. But let me know what your guys' thoughts are. Let me go through it again. Americans like to make friends. They like to talk. Not everyone in the South is a cowboy. True that. Not everyone owns guns. Not everyone is super patriotic. Yeah, I mean, this is pretty true. Pretty accurate. Well, anyway, guys, I hope you guys enjoyed. Let me know what you guys think of the audio. And I'm thinking about getting an actual like microphone, a proper microphone. If you guys have any recommendations, let me know. And yeah, anyway, I hope you guys have a great day. Thank you for watching, and see you guys soon. Bye.